Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. All right, back. Good to be back. Final segment of the show. So good to be back. Do want to go ahead and wrap with a little bit of college hoops recruiting news. Okay, so I say this every September, but listen, September's a great time of year. College football is underway. Everybody's happy, especially in early September before they realize maybe their team isn't all that good. But I bring it up because in addition to college football, this is also a very big time on the college basketball recruiting calendar as well. Earlier this week, coaches were allowed on the road for the first time really since the summertime. So you're starting to see tweets pop up of John Calipari was here, Mark Pope was there, Dan Hurley was there, Hubert Davis was there, Sean Miller was there. But also with these big college football weekends also become big recruiting visit weekends as well, right? When your team is hosting a big college football game, it's always a great time to bring on some high-profile players to campus. Well, I bring it up because Caleb Holt is one of my favorite players in all of high school basketball, top 5 prospect in the class of 2026, visited Arkansas last week, has plans to visit Auburn and Alabama down the road, but this weekend he is going to be at Kentucky for the big Kentucky-Ole Miss football game. Want to talk a little bit about his recruitment because, again, coming off a very good visit to Arkansas, I think John Calipari feels kind of good about where he is in that recruitment, but will Mark Pope be able to make a move? What does it mean big picture? We're going to talk about all of it. And oh, by the way, we're going to find out a ton more over the course of the coming days and weeks because guess what? As soon as that visit is done, we're going to get all sorts of reports out of Lexington. Let's go ahead and dive into Caleb Holt. By the way, should mention, if you are a Kentucky fan, if you are looking for last-minute tickets, remember, SeatGeek, SeatGeek.com. Use promo code Torres. If you're in Lexington, around Lexington, thinking about going to the game, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off if you want to join Caleb Holt at the Ole Miss Kentucky game on Saturday. As far as Caleb Holt is concerned, let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, one of my favorite players in the class of 2026, okay? And I've talked about this a lot with Tyron Stokes, but Caleb Holt, as you can see on the screen right there, played for Team USA this summer. And I love the way that he adapted and adopted playing for that team that was coached by Tommy Lloyd in Switzerland that won gold. If you remember, a lot of guys that are freshmen in college this year, A.J. DeBonsa, Koa Pete, Mikkel Brown Jr., those were the guys that kind of got the spotlight. But I really liked how some of the younger guys, including Caleb Holt, were willing to adjust and adapt based on the role that was asked of them, right? There were some nights Caleb Holt, like Tyron Stokes, was asked to be more of a scorer, was asked to be more of a defensive player, was asked to be a three-point shooter. I thought it was an excellent tournament across the board for Caleb Holt. Can do a little bit of everything, can score at the rim, shot the ball very well in that event. And oh, by the way, also on top of it, played great defense, was a key cog with that Team USA team. Bring it up. He is a top 5 player in the class of 2026. By the way, I should mention, he played a role for Team USA, but guess what? He is going to be a superstar in college. As I said, one of the best players in high school basketball. I think you can argue after number 1 at Tyron Stokes, I think you could argue the ceiling and the upside of Caleb Holt is as high as anybody in the class of 2026. But we're now at the point where we're really starting to get some tangible, definitive things in his recruitment. Like I said, did visit Arkansas last weekend. We'll talk about that visit in a minute. But why it's interesting is he is on that visit to Kentucky this weekend, has a little bit of a relationship with Mark Pope. I think as importantly, there is a very clearly defined role that he can have. And so I'm curious over the next couple of days, can Mark Pope in Kentucky continue to make a move on him? Because if you remember, when I did my projecting where every 5-star lands a few weeks ago back in August, I did say I do think Caleb Holt, if I had to guess, and I think it's still a little bit early, but I think Kentucky probably is right up there with the home state schools of Auburn and Alabama, among the favorites. And it's for a few different reasons, like I said. First of all, I think this is important. I mentioned that Caleb Holt played for Team USA. And it's worth noting, if you remember, during the summer, Mark Pope was one of the coaches that showed up early in training camp and kind of wasn't really an assistant. They called him an on-the-court coach, which basically means that he was allowed to help work out players and things like that. And I bring it up because he apparently made quite an impression on Caleb Holt. You go back to that week. Here is what Caleb Holt had to say about the relationship that he built with Mark Pope during that time with Team USA. Caleb Holt telling Kentucky Sports Radio, Coach Pope, he was my on-court coach at Team USA. I got to play for him, and it was actually fun. He let me rock out. He was like, that's how it's going to be at Kentucky. Kentucky is definitely in the mix, very high up. I mess with Mark Pope and everything. Listen, I'll say this. I am far from a Gen. Listen, I'm Gen. I guess I'm a millennial. I'm old as hell, okay? But you look at those quotes again. He let me rock out. I mess with Mark Pope and everything. Listen, I don't totally speak Gen Z. I'm sorry, but I think those are pretty good. He let me rock out. I mess with Coach Pope. That's nothing but positive. We're the wrong thing there. Where are we going here? Where are we going here? Oh, I'm sorry. This is what I was looking for. Okay, let's continue. Because again, I think Mark Pope really made an impression on him with Team USA. I think as importantly, and this is also worth noting, when it comes to Mark Pope and when it comes to Kentucky, there is going to be a very clearly defined role for him at Kentucky if that was the decision. I think this is going to be an interesting conversation coming out of this visit. And when Caleb Holt does the interviews that he's going to do after the visit, does this become a thing? But the bottom line is, look, 6'5", scorer, bucket getter, difference maker, potential NBA player. Who does that sound like? Oh, I don't know. Otega Oweh, the star player at Kentucky last year, who is returning in 2025. Okay, 2025, 2026. Otega Oweh was awesome last year. I thought, to me, he was the biggest surprise. I knew how good Lamont Butler had a chance to be. I knew how good Jackson Robinson had a chance to be, Kobe Brea, Mari Williams, whatever. Otega Oweh, I thought would be good. I didn't think he would be Kentucky's best player. Leading scorer, most consistent player. Really, it's ironic because I know he's in a little bit of a walking boot right now. He was the only player that was able to stay healthy last year. But I only bring it up because Mark Pope has proven, you give me a wing and a dude that can get buckets. I know I want to play a lot of players. I know we go deep into our bench, but I will put the ball in your hands and let you make plays. And that is the exact role that Caleb Holt would play if he ultimately chooses Kentucky. So I just bring it up because he's going to Kentucky this weekend. I expect the visit to go well. Listen, it's not often that visits don't go well, but I just am curious to see what comes out of this conversation because, like I said, I do believe that, listen, if you were loosely handicapping it, I know he's from Alabama. I know Alabama and Auburn are going to have their say, but I did think coming out of the summer that Kentucky felt like they were in a really good position. Now, I should mention, because to me, this is actually very important. He had a great visit at Arkansas last weekend as well, okay? And you talk to people that kind of know the inner workings. I don't know necessarily what everybody expected, but I think the visit basically exceeded everybody's expectations, including Caleb Holt's, okay? First of all, John Calipari, the one-and-done legend. We know what he's capable of when he gets a kid to campus. You got to give credit, by the way, to the rest of that staff as well. Chin Coleman, Ronnie Brewer, who's been an X factor for a lot of different recruitments for players on that roster, Chuck Martin, et cetera, et cetera. But I only bring it up because, I don't know where people thought Arkansas was coming into that visit. I think Arkansas is very much in the mix coming out of that visit. And listen, I think the thing that Arkansas can sell is pretty similar to Kentucky as well, is the fact that, listen, you come here, there's going to be a very clearly defined role for you because you look at Arkansas and you look at what that roster could be a year from now. Go ahead and look. There could be a lot of opportunity in the backcourt for Caleb Holt. Darius Acuff. I know Darius Acuff is a point guard. Caleb Holt is kind of a 2-3 whatever. But Darius Acuff probably going to be a one and done. Don't expect him back in Fayetteville a year from now. Carter Knox, he's here for a second year right now. I think this is going to be it for Carter Knox. I think if he lives up to expectations, he'll be probably a potential lottery pick in the next NBA draft. I mentioned Otega Oweh potentially being an SEC Player of the Year candidate. I think Carter Knox could be there as well. But Carter Knox, I don't think you should expect him back next year. Darius Acuff, I don't think you should expect him back next year. Malik Thomas, we'll see if he ends up as a one and done. DJ Wagner, listen, Who knows? But 3 years of college basketball after this year, does he just say, you know what, it's time for me to do something different. It's time for me to move on to the next level. We don't know. But I do feel like there's going to be plenty of opportunity. And I feel like that's probably what Coach Cal sold to Caleb Holt when he was on campus last week. So I don't want to oversell it. And as I've said a few times now, Caleb Holt is from Huntsville, Alabama. I think, Auburn's going to have a say. I think Alabama is going to have a say in Nate Oates as well. But it does start to feel like great visit to Arkansas. I have a feeling things are going to go well here. Could this be a potential Coach Cal versus Coach Pope off the court recruiting battle? It's interesting. We really haven't had any of those since those two got to campus. Obviously, Mark Pope, really hasn't, he's recruited mostly kids with Kentucky backgrounds. Even John Calipari, felt like he got Darius Acuff done really early, Malik Thomas really early, and then wasn't really in pursuit of a lot of guys in that 2025 class. Just bring it up because this could be the first one where these two really battle head-to-head. The Alabama schools are going to have a say. This feels like it might be a Kentucky-Arkansas battle, and it is going to be fascinating to watch all unfold. A couple other things. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, we'll have reaction if anything interesting comes out. Should mention, by the way, if you are a Kentucky fan, as I said, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. Also, if you can't get to Kroger Field, maybe you're on that Kentucky-Lexington or Kentucky-Tennessee border, quick reminder, Circus Sportsbook at the Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. That sportsbook is now open. Go check it out. Check it out for yourself. But Caleb Holt will be on campus. We'll see what the atmosphere is like at Kroger Field. But he is the visitor of note, and I am fascinated to watch this recruitment unfold.